Sometimes I just feel invisible. Like I can see the whole world, but the world can't see me. Probably one of the most talented athletes in the whole state of Arkansas. But where I come from probably gonna be the reason I don't make it. Walk these streets every day, just looking over your shoulder, cop cars, addicts. Just like I used to run touchdowns. And first thing I do is look in the stands to see who came to my game. I didn't really care about the touchdowns. I just wanted somebody to clap for me. I want to feel appreciated. Parents can't give you nothing that they don't have, whether that be money, emotion, positivity. They just don't have it for you. You go home and it just feels empty. So as a kid, you're not even accepting the things that you can get. By the age of 10, you're accepting the things that you can't get. I know that I'm talented. I know that I'm intelligent. But I don't think the world see that. Maybe it's the way I talk or the way I look. When you come from where I come from, you just can't walk around with a happy, smiley face. You learn to put on another face, and you make sure nobody can see through your eyes.
I remember the first time I ever flew on an airplane. As we flew across the country, I remember looking out the window the whole time, my nose just pressed against the glass, sort of surveying the land below me. I remember having this strange sense of duty to dedicate myself in some way to helping.
Opioid addiction reaching epidemic levels.
Fast-moving fires in parts of California.
Breaking news, at least 9 people killed overnight in a massacre.
As I grew older, I ended up raising a family and becoming a lawyer and ultimately becoming CEO of Chipotle Mexican Grill.
And it's a vision to change food culture.
One of the things I liked best was interacting with thousands and thousands of people over the years and really getting to know them. Loads of different people from very different walks of life. The more I got to know, the more convinced I was that, man, we're all very much the same in so many ways. And you wouldn't know that from what we see on TV or hear on the radio. All that stuff suggests that we're very divided, that we're not united at all, that we're all about disagreement, that we're all about arguing, that we're all about fighting. But I think the truth is just the opposite. There's a great deal more that unites us. What I want to do with this docuseries is to tell the stories of people who might never be seen or heard, and to help bring the wisdom from many people from many different walks of life so that everyone has access to it. In some ways, I'm still just that small boy with my nose pressed against the glass, looking down at this beautiful place we all live, and wanting to do some good. Wanting to demonstrate that there's a lot more that unites us than divides us. In 1993, Little Rock, Arkansas had the highest per capita murder rate in the country. Most of the deaths were young men caught up in gang violence, a war mostly between two of America's largest gangs, the Bloods and the Crips. Back then, a documentary was filmed that some felt left the city with a bad reputation, driving away business and causing many people to leave the area. But still today, violence, shooting, and murders are all too common.
Give my gun! Give my gun!
Is this recent violence a result of increased gang activity? Or is there some other cause? I'm eager to learn from the residents of Little Rock, many of whom grew up with violence and criminal activity at the center of their lives. What can I learn about the Crips and Bloods, their past and ongoing disputes? Are these gangs still to blame for the countless tragedies on the streets of Little Rock, which drive people to fight and even kill each other? LaFell Jackson is a Little Rock native, but spent some of his young life in Los Angeles, where his brother introduced him to gang life, and he was soon initiated into the Crips.
Back when we were banging, the OGC Crips, we would meet down here for our gang meeting.
What's OGC stand for?
Original Gangster Crips.
Yeah.
We were 20 Crips off of the 4 block. This is what we would come to discuss our business.
Yeah.
I had
What was your business?
Our business was drug trade.
Okay.
We wanted to make sure that where we were selling drugs, that there was no one from any other community coming in there selling drugs where we were.
Were there people who wanted to shoot you back then?
Oh, yes, yes.
Because you were the head of the Crips?
For the territory and the money, a lot of people lost their lives. A lot. I mean, to the extent that Little Rock, per capita, had more murders than LA and Chicago.
Wow. And this is what, 20 years ago?
Yeah, no, it was over 30 years ago.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
And so did you have a gun at that time on you?
Multiple.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was the thing about it.
But so did all the young guys.
But so did everybody else have guns.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that was different. Back then, we still had rules. You walk up on somebody and they had their babies or old people, they get a pass. That used to be the rules. Now it has changed a lot. These younger kids, they don't care wherever they see you at, they start shooting. So that put children at risk and older people who had nothing to do with it.
Who made up those rules?
Those rules actually descended all the way from California.
Mm-hmm.
They were part of the rules, you know, and a lot of the gang members that set up here, a lot of them was come from California, more or less.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I went to California and I stayed in the projects in Imperial Court with my brother DeWitt.
Yeah.
And my father would tell me at an early age, he would say, a man shouldn't hug another man. But when I go to Southern California and I'm sitting in the yard and dude get out and he walked over to the other dude, he put his arms around him and he hugged him and he said, I love you, cuz. I'm like, oh my goodness, you got me. I want to hug my brother. You know, and there's nothing strange about that. It didn't make me feel like, oh, or nothing.
Yeah.
So what they had there in California, I wanted it. Right when I came home, all of the Crips, we rolled together then. The camaraderie was just so good.
And were you in charge of everybody?
You know, I wasn't in charge of everybody, but a lot of them looked up to me.
But you were the most senior of all in the whole
Well,
town,
no,
weren't you?
we had my brother DeWitt, and then we had one of my homeboys called Big O. He was actually older than me. It's just that I was the money.
Was there that much money selling drugs?
Yes.
Millions?
Yes.
Many millions?
Yes. The young guy you're gonna meet, Charles, he used to work for me.
Yeah.
And he'll tell his story. Really good dude, but Charles was a seller.
I went to college up in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Didn't last at all.
Why?
And I came home, I saw my young brother, my baby brother. He was selling dope here in the neighborhood, in the hood here. And so that I watched him make about $1,000 in a couple hours.
And you thought college isn't for me?
It ain't for me.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, I want some of that. It looked easy. You making $1,000 or $2,000 in 2 or 3 hours. You don't make that on a job.
Right.
You know? And so I said, man, you know, I want to do this. You see these drug dealers, they behind the scene. You know, they got these young boys and these young people out selling the dope, right? But you never see the man behind the scene.
Yeah.
And I had an opportunity to meet Lee Fell. I goes in the house and when I go in, they locks the door. And he said, what you want? I said, hey man, I just want to get on. You know, I just want to get on, you know? And he said, well, what you got? I said I had about $100. So he gave me an $80 double up. You know what a double up is?
No.
I paid $80 for it, but he gave me $160 worth of dope. So that's a double up.
Okay.
I drove from Little Rock back to Stuttgart.
And sold it.
Sold it in an hour.
And went back up.
Went back up.
You were an ambitious man.
I was.
Oh my God.
He started buying packages for me. He was going and coming back too much. And I'm like, hey, we can't do that there. So that's when I was like, here, you take the pound. Take the pound, you go to, go down Stuttgart, you blow it up. So after that, he started getting like really blowing it up.
I was constantly bringing it in. I was his #1 man, in the game here.
He was one of my best salespeople. Then I put him down with Crip. And after that, he became Crip. And so.
When you say you put him down with Crip, you initiated him?
Yeah. I took him under my wings, and to the extent to one time he got shot one time. And they took him to the hospital. I'll never forget that time. When I walked in the hospital, his mom come to me and she said, please don't kill my baby. I said, what are you talking about? She said, they said that the OG guy was gonna come over because Charles got shot, he didn't give him his money. He said, please, we'll get you. I said, no, I come to see my little homeboy, he shot. So she was like, so you didn't come to do, no.
The game show you love. These your fellow family.
And it's real love.
It's real love. Because here's the thing, they're loyalty.
But it's beyond loyalty, right? They care about each other, right?
Well, they care about you. They're gonna see about you. They're gonna come to your rescue. They're gonna make sure that you got everything that you need. This is your family. And my thing is, though, that a lot of these young men, they join the game because guess what, the love ain't at the home.
Growing up on Wolf Street was just a place of gangbanging and drugs, Crips and, gang members. To the world, they were like, oh, that's a bad person, he's a villain, or, he's a liability to this community. But to me, they were actually heroes. These were the people when I walked to school, they were like, oh, don't mess with little man, or they protected me going back and forth from school, and some of them were my family members, so to me, it was the community that I had, regardless of what the nation deemed it or identified it as. Wolf Street was, of course, it's historically known to be one of the worst neighborhoods in the nation we live in because of the influx of violence and crime and drugs and things of that such. My biological dad was in prison, was a very high-ranking gang member. My mother, she has the name Rough Rider tatted on because she's a survivor. There was a small absence of my mom in the beginning. What? She was a Crip. She kind of got into the street life, kind of as an adolescent, trying to figure out her place in the world. However, that place happened to be on Wolf Street.
Right.
So I was raised with my grandmother.
Do you remember that happening?
I hear so many stories about it that I can feel it. Sometimes it wasn't 4th of July, but at nighttime, you could hear the fireworks. You could hear the gunshots right outside the house. We'd just be on the floor for about 10, 15 minutes until it passes. And I would find myself crying for my mom.
Yeah.
Like, I want my mother. Like, I want my mom.
And that was a big absence then.
That was a big absence. That was a huge absence for me. I wanted to imitate whatever I could to feel a sense of identity. So in the 1st grade, we're having a career day at the school. And it was interesting because all the kids were lining up. We were probably like a line of 30 of us ready to go on stage and tell firemen, police officers, staff, students, and teachers what we wanted to be when we got older. And so I'm like 3rd in line, and I'm just waiting, swinging, not a thought in my head, and I remember vividly. And so the person before me, I think they said they wanted to be like a doctor or something like that. And so I was getting on stage, I was really short, so they was fixing the mic for me, they brung it down. And so I just leaned up, and they was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm like, a Crip. And everybody, it was no applause, it was no...
Crickets.
It was crickets. I just feel an arm come and grab me off the stage and just starts walking me to a direction.
You were done.
I was done.
Your presentation was over.
So here I am in this back room, like, what's the problem? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand what the outcry is about. Because what I was doing was I was expressing what I seen as safe. I was expressing what I was seen as ideal. I was expressing what I seen as heroic.
The people you admired, the people who took care of you, the people who protected you, the people you knew best.
The people
were
that
Crips.
were higher on the hierarchy in the neighborhood, you know.
Including your own mother.
Yeah. I never met a doctor, Monty. I never met a lawyer. I never met these great examples. You know, I just knew what I knew. Just imagine as a child, you're at 7, 8 years old, and there's a plate of cocaine in the house. You see it, and everybody's passing it around. It goes from your parents to your grandparents to your nephew to your niece. It's everybody's passing it around. You're just sitting there looking at it.
Normal.
Normal.
Did you ever think that you'd probably end up going to jail?
I knew I was.
You were just...
Like, if I got in trouble at school, my excuse was probably gonna be in jail anyways.
Gang life is death life. Some survive and some don't. Period. I got affiliated when I was 12.
Like initiated?
Mm-hmm. They all took me, it was about 12 of them. They took me outside and beat out of me and initiated me in. See?
And that's it, what does it say?
Psycho, GD.
Was that your kind of nickname?
Yeah. People thought that I was a Blood first, then they thought I was a Crip, but actually I'm not. I'm a gangster disciple. A GD is what you call it, 7'4" gangster disciple. So you get beat in, the only way out is to die. It ain't no walking away. You're either gonna die trying to get out. They gonna kill you. So whatever they asked me to do, I did. If I had to be the getaway driver for them robbing the bank, that's what I had to do. If they wanted to go do a drive-by, that's what I had to do. It was either drive or get shot your damn self. Part of my gang thing I had to do was to set something on fire. So I burned down the junior high.
You burned down what?
The middle school.
You burned down the middle school?
Yeah.
That was one of your initiation rites?
I had to. Well, I was told to do it, and if I didn't do it, I would get violated. So I set school on fire.
What does it mean to get violated? You were already in the gang at that point.
Yeah, that means you whoop your ass. It's what they gonna do. Gonna beat the hell out of you.
So that was when you were already in the gang. So why did they make you set the school on fire when you were already in the gang?
They thought I was weak, so I had to prove myself, and I did.
I never joined a gang, but everybody I dated was always in a gang. My grandmother was a bails bonder here. She was actually the first black bails bonder here in Conway and Faulkner County. So I kind of grew up seeing her able to relate to the streets because she was a bails bonder. So
she's meeting a lot of people who have been accused of crimes.
Exactly. So I watched her all my life, and I was infatuated with some of the people when I would notice that she would go get out of jail as a little girl. You know, a lot of them was probably drug dealers or, you know, just all kind of different crimes.
And you were what, 5, 6 years old?
I was a little girl.
Yeah.
I was a little girl. So by the time I was 15 years old, I was so curious. I wanted to, instead of not being like those people she was bonding out, I was kind of caught up in those people that she was bonding out. I ended up starting to date one of the guys that she bonded out one time. He was a little bit older than me.
Was he in a gang?
He was in a gang.
Which gang?
Crip gang.
Crip gang?
Mm-hmm. So
what was so exciting about being around him?
The selling the drugs, the money, the cars, just all of the flashy things that come with that. The toughness, he was pretty tough. So I think a lot of it more was, I didn't have a father. I wasn't raised at home with a father, so he protected me. You know?
I see. So all of a sudden you're in this world where it's exciting, and you felt valued.
Right.
And because you were the right hand of someone who was tough,
right,
who was smart.
Right.
You could buy jewelry and flashy things, and all that all of a sudden it was pretty appealing. This is good life. This is fun. This is exciting.
This is fun. You know, it was fun then. At that time, once again, I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
You know, I had no idea that eventually it was gonna grab me like it did.
When I was in the 3rd grade, my mom, she met this guy named Demetrius. And wow, they had a rock and roll relationship. He's a Crip from College Station. He was in the streets. And I had a lot to learn from this dude. Like, I had so much to learn from him. And like I said, one of those heroes that didn't appear heroic.
To the outside
to
world.
the outside world.
But to you, he was.
To me, he was a hero. So I would be in a lot of different positions to see things. I've seen someone get out of a car before and say, I'll be right back. And they go burn up a whole house in front of my eyes and get back in the car and light a cigarette, and we on the way to the house.
If I was into it with any female, I used to go knock on their door and whoop their ass right there on their front porch. I didn't care. That's how bad it was. Didn't care.
Our life expectancy is not long. So everything I did it daily. Made me really dangerous because I thought that, hey, well, okay, well, I could be dead tomorrow. Let me do this.
After only 2 days in Little Rock, I heard a local news report which said there were 7 shootings in 24 hours. Stories like this have become the norm for these kids. It's no wonder that in the inner city neighborhood, kids often don't have the luxury to think about preparing for their future or making the most of themselves. Their needs are too desperate and immediate to allow the privilege of advanced planning. Instead, they do what they need to do to survive the day, living quite literally as if there were no tomorrow.
I have seen hundreds of deaths, okay? I'm telling you, and some of them like 2, 3, 4 days, just bam, 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 bam. I have seen more death than any war person can go to a war and see.
You become desensitized.
Yeah, it was so much of that.
Did a lot of shooting.
So much shooting, so much blood back then.
Did you usually do that yourself, or did you have someone do it?
There was times when I would have people do stuff, but most of my stuff, I did it myself.
Did you have a lot of anger back then?
You know, I just had zero understanding. That was probably the scariest part about me. This one guy, I was going over kind of in a blood neighborhood, but my family was there, and I was going to take them a pound. So as I was pulling up, I get out of my car, I got a blue rag on, I'm in a blue vet, and I'm walking, where immediately when I pull up, the guy started walking from over there, and he started shouting, "Say, C-Rad, what you doing? You're over here, you in the wrong neighborhood," whatever. So I was just smiling and walking. So I wasn't angry with him, but when he got like this close, he did his hands like that. To me, that was aggression, totally aggressive.
Oh, he put up his hands like to grab you?
Yeah, and that's when I shot him. And I shot him first in his mouth, and when he turned, I shot him inside his head. And then when he fell down, I shot him in his back of his neck, and his back, and his butt. And then I stepped over.
5 shots?
Yeah, and then I stepped over him. And I gave the dude the package. And then I turned around and I said, same price. And went, walked back, got in my car and left.
Didn't feel bad?
Didn't feel bad at all.
It was just a logical decision that this is what you needed to do to keep your turf, what you did to teach a lesson. Did you ever feel bad after some of the shootings?
Well, maybe a few times.
What would have made you feel bad versus not bad?
When I just had to shoot somebody that I didn't want to shoot. This one guy, he was a really good dude, funny as heck, but he started getting high and he ran with my package. And I told him to come talk to me and we'll work it up. But he kept running, and couldn't find out he had went into another neighborhood and was kind of working for this blood dude selling his stuff.
So he's crossing you?
Yeah. If I would have let him get by completely, then somebody else would have did it.
Yeah, someone else finds out you're lenient?
Yeah, yeah.
So you had to take a hard line?
And I just happened to see him come out of the store, a little hardware store one time, and I shot him, and I didn't like that. Never underestimate what I'm saying. I'm not boasting.
Yeah.
Those were some good times, but there were some horrible times. I got a chance to meet so many good people who got killed.
Yeah.
So many good people who's not here. I would find myself sitting thinking, you know, wow, you know, I wonder did that person make it? I wonder if they had kids like I had kids, you know.
Having a mom that was, you know, closely tied to the streets, I couldn't focus in school at all. I had really, really bad learning disorders, speech disorders, and because I was so worried about home life, you know. It takes you out of an innocent child space and puts you in this space of the responsible one very, very early. It's different when somebody calls your home and say, hey, your mom is in the hospital, she got stabbed up at the club, and she has 36 stitches in her back, and they don't know if she's gonna make it. And I'm just sitting at home with my little sister, like, holding her, trying to figure out what's next, overnight.
How old were you when that happened?
I was 9.
9 years old, and your mom got stabbed.
Yes.
Almost killed.
Yes.
And you were in charge of your sister at that point.
Yes.
How old was she?
She was like 2. At that moment, you can't be a boy. You have to be a man, even if you don't know what that looks like. You have to grow out of this 9-year-old, I love Pee Wee football, I love to draw, and you have to grow into this protector within a second. I didn't get to go to sleepovers or nobody could come to my house, obviously. I didn't get to go to Magic Springs, to go to the water park, or go to, you know, camp, or to be a Boy Scout. I'm trying to figure out problems and solutions that I have to have the answer to. Because if I don't get an A in this class in the streets, my life can be at risk. It's just like, looking back at it, it's just like I had to grow up a lot faster than the average kid. I have the documents from the nurse when I was born. I went and got those documents. It says that my mom was telling the Department of Human Services that my biological dad was in prison, and she had, at the same time, had an older friend that, you know, was gonna take care of me. His name is Lewis.
Did your grandmother accept him as your father?
Yes, definitely.
She liked him and you got along well?
Yeah.
Did he know you were not his biological child?
We never had a discussion about it.
But to him, you were his child.
Absolutely.
And to you, he was your father.
Absolutely.
And that was the end of it.
That's the end. My grandmas, we were very so much so in a low-income state, we're poor, you know, and I can remember my dad leaving Wendy's at the door at night. He would call and say, well, this is for him. I can't feed everybody in the house, but this is for him. I can remember that vividly.
And so he took great care of you?
Great care of me. But the issue came when my dad ended up, you know, having a girlfriend named Veronica, which I would call my mother. Took care of me, bathed me, all you name it. So I can remember Lewis, Veronica, going to church. My mom would stop us at the gate, because she's on Wolf Street. This is her area. And say, where y'all going? And it was, oh, you know, we're going, no, not today. And I can remember Veronica and my mom fighting in front of the yard.
Physically?
Yeah.
Tangling?
Tangling, no, on the ground, punching, like I'm looking at it.
Oh, really?
As a child, yes.
Not arguing?
Not arguing
Punching.
at all, punching, yes. I'm screaming, stop. Like, stop, you know, because I don't know what else to do. I obviously don't got the physical strength to break 2 angry women apart. So I'm like, just stop, you know? So I went through this battle as a child of, no, he's mine, no, he's mine, no, he's mine. It was confusing. I think being in vulnerable situations, like seeing my mom behind a glass, or, you know, my 2 moms fight, or seeing some places where my mom was actually very nurturing, very much so there, but couldn't pull it all together because of her environment. This stuff was numb to me at the time, but very much so building anger the entire time that I did not see. Started playing the drums as a child, and that was the first.
Who got you the drum set?
My dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad got me the drum set, and I would beat on it all night. And I think now, looking back, maybe that was a way of me getting that anger
For sure.
Out.
Do you think your dad might have recognized
I think
that?
he maybe recognized that. And my dad did a great thing. He put me in football at the age of 6. If I was angry, I didn't know it because I played it out of myself every day, you know, rumbling and knocking and, you know, and I was very small, you know, so my helmet was really big. I was very small.
Big helmet.
Yes,
Little
but
buddy.
I would bring the fire. Any football match we had as a kids, they knew, okay, that's the one to look out for. Even though they looking down the line like, oh, that one, you know? My head coach at the time was Coach Gary Gilmore, he passed away now, but very significant role model in my life.
Why? What was he like?
He always used to tell me, it's not about who the best player is. Always used to tell me this. He said, it's about how many games you play. And I never understood what he was saying. He would always say that, but when I got into the 10th grade, he was on his deathbed, I called him, I said, Coach Gary, I just got MVP. I'm in the 10th grade of one of the high school games at Central. He was like, oh, that's good. He was kind of rambling, oh, that's good. He was on his deathbed. And he said it again. This is the last time he talked, he said, I always tell you, T, it's not about how good you are, it's how many games you play. That's why I put you in, I allow you to play with the 6- and 7-year-olds as a 6-year-old, and now I make you play with the 9- and 10-year-olds the next game. I'll put you as many games as I can because it's about the experience that matters. And this life lesson took me many places. I knew that if I enter in the room with academia, or if I enter in a room with Africa, or I enter in a room with politicians, I knew my experience and the games of life that I've played would put me above stereotypes with no problem. The experience. And my experience is something that nobody can take away from me.
When you live in this type of life, everybody gonna know who the man is. Well, guess what though? When you the man, you the target.
I knew how to go and make money, whether it was selling drugs, stealing, however I had to go and do it, I knew how to go do it.
So you were good at this?
I was sharp.
Yeah.
You gotta be, this game, you gotta be sharp.
And you became pretty savvy, I suppose. Good at not getting caught.
Good and I never thought I could get caught.
Uh-huh.
I never thought I would be able to get caught.
So this guy, he was close to me. Yeah, so you got people close to you right now.
You trusted him?
I trusted him. He got busted, went to prison. He called them and said, I'll get Charles Banks. And so I had just got in town. I got over to the set, and this guy walks up. He said, I have $40 from my unemployment check. He said, I want 2 stones for $35. He said, I want you to serve me. Talking about me.
Wait, that's not what you did anymore.
No. So I told the guy that was selling dope for me, you give it to him. But they gave me the money. And when I served him, someone said, there's the task force. I jumped in the car. I had a Sunbird GT, 5-speed. I did a high-speed chase. I come from the set over here, and I end up back over behind the mill over there. And I threw out about $5,000 worth of dope. When I got up to the end there, I stopped. I thought that I was clean. I got out the car. I mean, I feel I'm good now, you know? And when it went in my pocket, they pulled the money out. It was marked money.
$40?
$40, they gave me 10 years. First offense.
I got into a car wreck, and I met this attorney. I won't say his name. And he introduced me to a doctor. And the doctor kind of had a little crush on me. Yeah, and he prescribed me unlimited amounts of opiates. And he introduced me to a pharmacist. And the pharmacist, we all kind of worked together, and that's how I got into the pill game. some of my loved ones that I introduced pills to, they became addicted to them. And just watching them go through it.
Fall apart?
And fall apart. And I knew that it was all because I was, part of even introducing them.
Did you feel guilty?
Oh, yeah.
How did that feel? I mean, did you, like, a lot of heavy?
Buried it.
And you buried it?
I buried
More
it.
pills?
More pills. That's when I started getting in trouble. Because I wasn't as slick. I was kind of losing that because I was more of turning into an addict. I was always high, and in my mind, I'm thinking I'm still normal, but I wasn't. And so I did things that I was cool with, things that I probably wouldn't have been cool with before.
Were these pills having a physical effect on you?
Oh yeah, I was physically, mentally drained to where I didn't even want to care if I even lived anymore. I was just that tired. The last of the last is me actually taking a whole bottle of pills, and I drove off from where I lived and I fell out.
You fell out? You mean?
Oh yeah, I fell out at a gas station. And someone picked me up and they...
You took the bottle of pills? You ate them?
I ate them. I was tired.
Like profoundly exhausted? Mentally, physically, emotionally? Okay.
So I woke up and I was in jail. And that's when I knew then that, hey, for me to wake up after taking that many pills, there's gotta be a reason why.
There are parts of your situation that you could pick out, hold so tightly, that it will take you out of the inner city. Mine was to happen to be the football.
That was your ticket?
That was my ticket. My mom didn't finish 8th grade. My grandma, she didn't finish high school. And here I am, the first to graduate high school. But I couldn't tell you nothing about college. One of my best friends, he said, hey, bro, we're going down to Pine Bluff. And he didn't know anything about college either. So I said, I'll ride. He had already got accepted, so they were showing him the rooms and stuff. And I'm walking around like, okay, I can do this. You know, like this is not as intimidating as the name college, you know?
Right.
And so while I was down there, I ended up doing the application, getting in. I knew then that I had to make a different change. When I got to school, I'm like, okay, cool, I can do this. So I went out for football, and that didn't last long at all. So my football career was clipped.
No, why?
The environment I had surrounded myself with in Pine Bluff was not a positive one because I was looking for people that had which I thought the way I thought, you know? Okay, survival minded, you know, maybe, you know, into a little drugs. I'm looking for people that make me feel safe.
Yeah.
So when I started to hang around them, they also had an effect on that as well, you know? So I'm one of the guys just not going to class and just kind of hanging out, you know, and I hit a low. I ended up dropping out for a semester, just living on the campus. So I would start being very much so by myself, alone. And I still was dealing with anger because it would come out. But see, I had a privilege on the football field because I could take it out on anybody and nobody would know it was that.
It was all good. It was like, hey, that kid's aggressive. The kid's got energy. Good for him.
Yeah.
But now you're in life where that doesn't make you a star.
Yeah, I can't just go run into people with helmets anymore. So I got to figure out a way to socialize myself. So I was Googling, I was really looking up like something to do or go out of the country. Like that'd be cool, like go on a ship ride or something, a cruise or something like that, right? Or to just go and experience another culture. So in the midst of that, I see Peace Corps pop up. Very prestigious, you know, organization, and they want the best of the best to represent America in different countries.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'll throw an application out there. You know, you just throw it out there, see how far it goes. And they actually emailed me back and was just like, hey, we're missing these X, Y, and Z documentation from you. I didn't know where to get my immunization records. I didn't know where to get that stuff, but immediately I got on it. And it was April the 28th, I want to say. And they came out and I got an email saying, hey, you have been accepted to serve in the Gambia, West Africa, the Peace Corps. And next thing I know, I was crying on this plane, breaking down. I'm finally getting out of here. This sense of I made it finally hit me. Wolf Street will forever be with me, but this was the time I get to see it from the sky because I'm actually leaving it.
There was a guy here in this city by the name of Charlie Holbert. I was his kid's nanny. And so I used to take him back and forth to the ball practice. And
This is while you were dealing?
well, I was dealing a little bit too, but I worked it for him also. He went to the sheriff here in Arkansas County. And he said that he'd put his store up, whatever you need to do to get me out of prison. He said, because Charles just made a mistake. He said, I'll get Charles out of prison to go to work for me, right? And he got me out of prison.
Did he risk his business to get you out?
He risked his name.
His name and his whole business?
That's correct. And he said, Charles ain't gonna run off. I trust him. And he saw something in me beyond Charles Banks, a black guy. He knew that I was a great young man.
But even after time in prison, Charles hadn't fully given up on his previous life. Sometimes people can be stubborn to surrender and allow a new life to begin to unfold.
I was driving home from Little Rock, and I had got stopped by the police. We ran my name with the chief of police. Said, hold him there. I'm on my way. As I was sitting there, when they had me, I said, Lord, if you get me out, I'm gonna do right. Chief of police came, he said, Charles, I know you got the dope. Let me get it. I said, I ain't got no dope. He said, oh yeah, I know you. You got the dope. So I gave him the dope. He said that, you know, your mama Ruthie wouldn't appreciate this, ain't gonna go for this. He said, you wanna take a dope charge? Take a ticket. And he said, I'm gonna write your ticket for riding on suspended driver's license, and I'm gonna send you on your way. And he let me go. As I'm headed back to Pine Bluff, my van stops and say out of gas. When I stopped and got out the van, I couldn't get out the driver's door. So I got out the van through the double doors. And when I got out the van through the double doors, the Holy Ghost hit me. I throw my hands in the air and said, Lord, I surrender. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Bam. March the 23rd, 2004. I've been clean ever since. Well, I went to church, told the pastor that I want to set my calling, and he told me the Lord had told him I was coming.
Did you know your calling was to be a minister, or did he tell you that?
I knew it. I knew it.
As I look back over my life.
God saved me. You know what I'm saying? He kept his hands on me. When I went to prison, when I got shot, I could have died. But God has a plan for me. And the plan is to try to help these young men and young women survive, try to make it. You know, I know my purpose, I know my calling.
God picked me back up, gave me a new walk, gave me a new talk. He restored everything that the devil took from me. And I encourage you, just stay with God.
Great is thy faithfulness.
When I first got to Africa, I'm like, this can't be real. I'm in this hut every night. There's no street lights or nothing like that. So from 8 to 6 in the morning, I had nothing but time to think about things. No phone, no TV. I'm just sitting there in a dark room. But I think I was glad to be there because I wanted to evolve a lot of who I was and who I was becoming. So I was kind of happy about, you know, being away.
My kitchen area.
It kind of switched how I seen life.
Absolutely.
Because over here, we'll say, are you
Moringa.
sick?
This is moringa.
And you'll say, yes, I'm sick. Over there, they don't associate themselves with sickness. So they'll say,
is there sickness in you?
Is there sickness in you? Or you'll say, sickness is with me.
Yeah, it's like a visitor instead
It's like a visitor
instead of a state of being.
You're owning your state of being.
Yeah.
So it's like you won't say, I don't have money, I'm broke. You'll say, money is not with me.
Yeah.
That means it's a mind flip. You know, they don't have phones and TVs and stuff like that, so you have to interact with people all throughout your day. Kids, adults. My conscience was like sharp.
Yeah.
It was different. Like, I mean, when I got back, one thing I was looking people in their eyes the entire time I was talking to them. That experience ripped me up and tore me out and spit me out and put me back on like land with no shoes on. Like, I was completely different coming back, but it was a good difference.
LaFell was arrested and went to federal prison. 10 hard years in prison provided a lot of time for reflection, and LaFell thought about the many lives cut short by the lifestyle he led in the streets of Little Rock.
I tore my neighborhood up and other neighborhoods and played a big part. And so my thing is I try to do things to balance out my past. After prison, me and my wife got a divorce when my daughter was 2. She took my van and the house, and I ended up with my baby. And so I raised her as a single parent. Raising her was one of the hardest things I've ever did in my entire life because I wasn't really mushy and all of that. I didn't have all of that.
You weren't ready for that, right?
Yeah, and so, but she broke that down. I wanted to change not only my life, but I wanted to change a whole lot of people's lives. I wanted to change the young dudes that look up to me life. A lot of the kids nowadays, they're only talking to kids. You know, so the only other person that they're talking to about real life things is other kids that don't have no.
So you mean when the gangs were stronger and more prominent, there was leaders in the gangs?
There was leaders.
So you had people you looked up to, the
That's
OGs,
right.
you had people you could get advice from.
Right. And so if they looked up to me, how could I come home and continue to bang and then want them to do better?
And so without any leadership, then it's just a bunch of young kids talking to a bunch of young kids without anyone guiding them.
That's right.
And that leads to?
The murders, deaths, shootings, with kids getting hit, old people getting hit in their house, all of that. They're on Facebook waving guns and with money like this here. And I was watching a TikTok thing the other day, and this one kid was sitting in his car, and he was like, yeah, I got this money, da, da, da. And these guys walked up and started shooting him and killed him. He was sitting in the car like, you know, on the Facebook thing with his money. Yeah, you see a lot of that on TikTok. So that more than anything bothers me because I think that we need other things for our youth to do. When I was in federal prison, myself and another crip, we were sitting there talking about what we were gonna do. And I told him, I said, man, Earl, when I get out, I'm gonna start a program to start getting some of those kids out of the street, start doing some positive things. And I never forget, he said, they'll never follow you, OG. They'll follow you to shoot, but I don't think they're gonna follow you for something good. I said, I'm gonna prove it to you.
LaFell now spends his days with inner city youth, teaching them a better path than gang life. Many people I met now look at LaFell, a former ruthless killer, as a loving father figure and life coach. When Sanisha got out of prison, she changed her life. She started Blessed Gals and her Fire on the Runway fashion show, with a goal to empower young black women and raise awareness for issues such as mental health and domestic violence.
I work with about 75 girls.
Wow.
Yeah. Each one of them all then kind of been through something. So they're able to go on the runway and express and let it out and be themselves.
Are all 75 of them in a position where they can call you anytime they want?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you expect them to if they need you?
Right. Yeah,
That's
a
cool.
mentor, a big auntie. Yeah.
Where are we going now? Do you know these guys?
Yeah. This is the park. This is the Punchie Park. This is where a lot of them grew up at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the guy that's talking, he would kind of hold them. He's their OG, so he's talking to them. Yeah.
Okay, and this is their neighborhood?
Yeah, this is their neighborhood.
Was this their meeting place?
Yeah.
Has been for a lot of years?
Yeah.
I see.
They won't believe who we are today. You see what I'm saying? But the whole message is, man, you can change. I don't care how rough you had it. I don't care who you were. If I'm gonna say this, if him and him can change, anybody in the world can change. I don't care how much of a menace you were. I don't care how much you went through trials and tribulation, how many stints you did in the penitentiary. I did 6 stints in the penitentiary, 5 in the state and 1 in the Fed, 23 years old. everybody wrote me off before I come home. They said he gonna get back in the game. That's what this whole segment is about. It's the change. We want to always say, man, this younger generation, they crazy, but guess what? We the one fumbled the ball. We the one fumbled the ball. So how is we gonna talk about how they is? You know why they like they is? Because we all in prison doing time when there was nobody out here to guide them. I felt responsible every time something happened when I was in that federal prison, had to hear about it. I apologized to all the Crips and the Bloods and the Vice Lords and the GDs. And I said, I apologize for the negative influence that I've set out in this community for years. I apologize, but that ain't the way. I have to show and prove by example. Man, we gotta come up with programs for these youths out there. We can't wait for somebody else to make up a program for them. We gotta do that. It starts with us. Show the younger siblings or the younger nephews and nieces and cousins in your generation that, hey, you don't have to go through all the trials and tribulations that we went through in order to change. That's my key word today, is change. But you, like he said, you gotta wanna change. You don't wanna change, you're gonna stay in the same situation. What they say, when you do the same thing over again, expect different results, what is it? You what? Are you serious? Well, I need a check, because I'm crazy as hell. I did it so many damn times the same way and expected different results. As soon as I filed for Social Security, they told me, you get your ass out of here. Let's get, I know it's hot, everybody ready to go. I ain't gonna hold y'all up. I'm about to have a stroke, but we gonna get these balloons up here. Y'all come on. Okay, who gonna release the first balloon? You gonna release it? Bumpy gonna release it. Who is the balloon for, Bumpy? Who we gonna have this first one for?
My brother Shannon.
The first one is for Shannon. Little Shannon. Little Shannon Gatewood.
This one for Let Loose. Pete Rogers, Let Loose, rest in peace.
Let Loose, rest in peace.
Let loose.
This for Super Low. Stephanie gonna let go for Super Low. Super Low, rest in peace, baby. Sean Smith, rest in peace.
Yes, sir.
All people, especially children, desperately need leadership. And they'll find that leadership wherever it's available, from parents, coaches, friends, and grandparents. But if not from there, from gangs, social media, or television, which often send them astray.
It's easy to know where to go if someone's telling you where to go. Sure. But it's a little harder to go a route that's uncharted and nobody's on it, but you have to travel it, even when it's dark. So it's like you're not even traveling your way out of the hood as much as you're feeling your way out of the hood because you don't know what's on the other side.
There are solid reasons why very smart and capable youth all over our country decide to join gangs. To find safety, love, a sense of belonging, money, and security. But maybe if we can find a way to give young people these things at the outset, the allure of joining criminal enterprises is greatly diminished.
Give them the things that they don't have. And I'm not talking material things. We know these kids don't have father figures and mother figures because maybe the father is in jail, the mother's on drugs. You know, that's where we supposed to step up and be that figure for them. Give them that love that they probably not given, because it's hard for a young kid to love if he never knew what love was. And I promise you, at the end of the day, if you could save one child, man, you've done your job.
Those of us who have an opportunity to take a leadership role in another's life shouldn't hesitate. To wait is to risk another young person lost. When you release your judgment and take time to get to know people and connect deeply with them, you will find some of the most talented, smart, and brilliant people. People we can all learn from. People who have learned to overcome great struggle and difficulty. Their challenges have given them skills to become future leaders who can help others avoid a life of crime and violence.
My idea of the inner city is just like this garden. It's not always fed the right minerals. It's not always watered, getting enough sunlight it needs to thrive. However, if you put rose seeds under this concrete we're standing on, you will get roses from concrete. Regardless of the environment you were in, the cement, and it was packed down, it's been there for years, you grew through that.
I think that really my message is to the young dudes who shot, not knowing how that feeling was gonna be. And then once they shot, those people they're gone. I want the young people to know that it's not over. That you don't have to continue to shoot and kill. There is a place after making that mistake and pulling that trigger. You can't take it back, but you can do something different that will make a difference to balance your beams in your life. I am living proof.
Each of us will be rewarded based on our effectiveness in making the people around us better.
Sure. Sure.
And I think both of you are experiencing now that you're being rewarded now based on making others better.
God has saved us for a time like now. We pray, God, upon today that those children will not walk in the steps of their father, their brothers, that you would just rest your spirit all over this city, Little Rock, Stuttgart, other areas, God, where all the violence may be. We thank you, God, and we pray.
When people get a chance to share their experiences and admit their weaknesses and faults, they feel seen, valued, understood, and loved. This disburdens them. It lifts a weight from their shoulders and sets them on a course where they can feel the fulfillment of becoming a force for good in the lives of others.
We got a young man here. He got a blue flag in his pocket. That's Crip. And he told me on yesterday, I want to be a preacher.
I've been in the streets 41 years. I was raised in the streets. All I know, since I met Pastor, just want to live a different life.
He said 40 years. That's a long time. But I want to share this with you. God can move quick. Come on now. God can turn that thing around, son. So your reasons for coming today.
To be saved.
This is the best thing.